Hello, everybody. Let me get to the camera again. There we go. Thank you so much for coming. We will call the King George Historical Society meeting to order. I think we're about a minute early. I don't know how excited everybody else is about this, but I'm super excited to welcome Mr. Tom Baker. I told Tom that we've had a couple of our family members have been to Rokeby. I've never been to Rokeby. I'm that person that drives up and down the road, sees it, wonders about it, and I'm excited to hear about it tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mr. Tom Baker. He is going to come up and give us a presentation. Mark is going to assist with the historical piece, and I'm going to turn slides. And then we have a little bit of business to conduct afterwards. So thank you so much, Mr. Baker.
Hey, good evening, Tom, please. I'm Tom Baker. I bought Rokeby last January 25. In March of 25, I undertook the renovation of it. And I'll get into a little bit of that in a minute, but Mark's gonna go. The piece of property's been around for forever. So he did the research on it, so I'm gonna let him touch base on that, and then I'll take it from January of 25 forward. But go ahead, Mark.
What we did is, as we were working on the video project, I was able to get a hold of Tom, and he was able to. He had a book that had been handed down to him, and I digitized everything, and we were learning the history on it. And then I met Tom and went up to Rokeby. He gave me a tour. Of course, we had to take a paper towel and wipe all the drool up because it was I was drooling at the old place, and it's gorgeous if you've never been there. And so Renee had asked if Tom could talk about Rokeby, and I asked Tom, and he said sure. And then tonight, I put together a PowerPoint presentation for him, and tonight he asked me to do the history side of it. So if I'm slow at it, I wasn't prepared to do this. With a lot of things that we found out, I'm sure I get this right. How many of you have actually been up to Rokeby? It's changed a good bit. And Tom's going to tell you what he's done. I learned this information, like I said, from doing the background on it. And of course, talking about, as you know, I had to research. I wanted to produce a PowerPoint presentation for y'all tonight. And first time I've ever done AI, and so they were able to spit some information out for me in form of PowerPoint. Then I went in and edited and added a lot of information that was not in there. It actually started as a Hatton 6,350 acres. When I first started looking at this, they were talking and looking at the information that we had. It pretty much went from the Potomac to the Rappahannock. And that being said, and if you're going to find out here soon when we send out the next newsletter, Earl was able to get us some maps. Pretty much what I've determined is in 1721, when the county was formed, the county line stopped right around Kings Highway, right there on that ridge. And everything north was Stafford County. So when you see some of these records saying that it was established and some of this was recorded in Stafford County, that's why. It was awarded to John Wall, land passed down to his son, Joseph Wall, in 1731. Then to William Wall, son of John or Joseph. They're not sure if it was John or Joseph because I believe it may have been John Joseph Wall or Joseph John Wall. Then at some time, Dr. John Michael Wallace purchased the land. Then it shows the evidence of Dr. Wallace being here in King George. He is actually, his family's from Scotland. First documented reference, King George Dr. Wallace, 1719, 1767, dated in 1751. Second document dated in 1752. Then in 1767, he willed 3 tracts of land to his son Gus Gustavus B. Wallace, and he is the builder of Rokeby. And from the paperwork that Tom's got, it was actually built in 1827. A lot of paperwork shows 1828, but it was in 27. Here you see the land and plantation in Stafford, purchased from William Ross, who's involved with it. And then, of course, Colonel Carter, which lies between the Ridge Road and his ordinary Gus Wallace is theirs forever. Some of the maps that you'll see regarding this: John Water map, 1745, shows it was mapped. And then the Fry and Jefferson map, 1755, identifies the landmarks. And some of this that I looked at, it kind of reminds me, we had a person ask for a school in an email, and I went and found some boundaries that Elizabeth Lee's digital files had. And the plat actually shows that if you go to the old cedar stump and walk 100 yards, that's where the property starts.
Okay.
I'm sure that cedar stump is gone by now. But looking at this, and it talks about the people and the area that it was at. And you'll see Lambs Creek and Falmouth. And it was a big property. The Wallace family legacy, I was really confused with this because it shows Gus Wallace, date of birth and death date don't match up to the other Gus Wallace. So General Wallace was actually the uncle of the person that built Rokeby. And General Wallace was born in, does everybody know where Elsery is? Okay. We need to talk. And then it talks about his commission. He served with George Washington at Valley Forge. He was captured at the fall of Charleston and later paroled by Lord Cornwallis. And again, the Wallace family was big in this area, in the Chesapeake area. Again, Gus Wallace, the nephew of General Wallace, son of Michael and T. Smith Wishart, and she was the widow of Reverend James Wishart of Lambs Creek Church. And as a result, Plantation Whitehall came to remain for many years in possession of the Wallace family. He was a graduate of Princeton College, member of the American Whig Society of Princeton, private soldier, Captain Brown's Company, 25th Virginia Regiment, during 1812. In the early 19th century, Rokeby occupied the center of a vast plantation, approximately 2,000 acres. You see that the property is starting to whittle down because of being given to people in wills. There's substantial size, quality construction. It's elegant, very much so. And it shows the census records owned 86 slaves, employing an additional 33 workers in agriculture and manufacturing. It's a federal style mansion. It sits right on the hill of the river valley. Again, established by the Wallace family. Of course, Rokeby comes from the literary tradition of Sir Walter Scott, works widely admired young Virginia's planter class during the 19th century. You'll see that the structure, the ornaments, the materials that was used in this house is top notch. It was top of the line. I found something that, and Tom and I were talking. It shows that Rokeby was actually built before this, before 1827, because it also says that the bricks were manufactured by Hessian soldiers. So I'm thinking that there was another structure up there before this building was actually built. And those of you who have not been there, yes, it does have a schoolhouse. It has several buildings, playhouse, a garage from Sears Roebuck catalog, sheep barn, cattle run and shed, and then Tom has just built another barn up there. It's considered, it was social prominence, agricultural, the planter's elite. Talk about the Civil War. Of course, everybody knows about King George being the crossroads of the Civil War. Natural boundary between Union and Confederate forces. A lot of the plantations were headquarters to a lot of either Union or Confederate. And of course, Rokeby was also involved. This is where General Ambrose Burnside had his headquarters for a very short time.
General Burnside's quarters.
Couple days.
Yeah,
That's cool.
very short time during the Fredericksburg campaign,
Yeah, cool.
which was strategic because of the way it sits up on that hill.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Then in 1916, a banker from Richmond buys it, Langmore Meade Williams. The original mansion is enlarged with a pair of flanking two-story frame pavilions expanding the mansion's footprint. Williams purchased it, which, of course, and Renee's going to say, of course, he is. I ran across this name doing my genealogy, so related to Williams. In 17, the West Wing is substantially enlarged. He launched a comprehensive building program across the entire property. And instruction of the schoolhouse, summer house, playhouse, garage, horse barn, sheep barn, and cattle shed transformed into a complete country estate. It was self-sufficient. They sent all their kids to the schoolhouse. That's where they got their learning. So they didn't have to actually leave the plantation. Of course, the building program we talked about. And then with Williams, he was the upper class, and so he had all of these big parties, legislators, governors, prominent social figures that came to Rokeby. One of the things that I have found out, and I know a lot of y'all too with learning history, when people came to visit or came to a party or a function, they were there for a week or two, if not longer. So a lot of people, you know, it's like when you go to Stratford Hall and they talk about everybody that came down to Stratford Hall, where'd they sleep? They doubled up and
Yeah.
4 or 5 people
rooms.
to a room, you know, and or slept on the floor. So I can imagine. I mean, this is a big home, but I can only imagine with all of these the big parties that they had, how many people they had staying in the home. Again, 1827, the original federal block, 12 the pavilion additions, and then 17 the West Wing expansion. There's been a lot of preservation and recognition. So NRHP meets all of these criteria, A, B, and C. So on Virginia's landmark register, it was registered in 2004, and on the national list in 2005. Now, Rokeby today, and one of the things that I want to make sure Tom tells you is how he came about noticing Rokeby and ending up as the owner of Rokeby.
That's not Rokeby. If the water came up that close, the rest of the county would be underwater. So just
No, that's not, you're right.
no.
That's not even the house.
Okay. Yeah, I bought the house last January and started the renovations about March. Now I hired a company called Habilis, which they have redone. That's all they do is redo old historic homes, and they did the vast majority of the work in there. And we'll get to the work in a minute. But it was a major undertaking, and it's one of those things that you go, you know, if you knew what you had to do, would you still do it? Yeah. And the answer is yes, I would have. It's been a lot of, I don't know if fun is the word, but it's been very interesting and very involved. When I grew up in Fredericksburg, downtown Fredericksburg, and over the course of my life, for one reason or another, you had to drive to King George every once in a while, various and sundry reasons. But every time you drive to King George, well, what do you see? You see that big house sitting up on the hill. And the first time you see it, you go like, oh, and you don't know what's coming, and you just keep driving and not thinking about it. And then the second and the third time, you start thinking, I wonder who lives there. And then I wonder what it's like to live there. And it's like, imagine if you could live there. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see what it's all about. Well, I did that until I went to school and lived my life and whatnot, and moved around, most of the time around here, but some of it out of state, but moved back several years, about 10 years ago, I guess. And I always look, I was looking for a house, and this one was for sale. And I'm like, oh man, I wonder what it looks like. I wonder what it looks like. I'd love to see what the inside looks like, with not even thinking about it. Because at the time, my dad was very sick. I was living with him, taking care of him. It was not the right time to consider something like this. It just wasn't going to happen. And sure enough, somebody buys it, and I see it sold, and it's like, well, so be it. They'll live there for another 30 or 40 years, and I'll never see it again. Well, lo and behold, about 18 months later, it comes on the market again. And I'm like, wait a minute, something's hanky about this. I got to check this out. And at the time, my dad had passed, and so that wasn't an issue. So I took a look at it. Mistake. Because once you get in there, it's like, yeah, I had to do this. And you thought about all the things that had to be done. And it's like, you know what? I'm not getting any younger. I had a big health scare several years ago, and I said, you only live once. So I said, I'm gonna go for it. And I did. And I haven't done anything like this before, but I've renovated houses and all. And if you think it's gonna cost X, double it. And in Rokeby should stand for double it again. Because there's a lot. If you look at it, cosmetically, it looks fine. If you saw it online in the listing and everything, it pretty much looks the same. It was the underneath that needed it. It had not been touched or renovated or supported or buttressed or anything ever. And it showed it. Now, it wasn't falling in or anything like that, like some houses. It was still a well-built house. The walls are 4 brick thick. So the outside walls are about that thick of brick. So that was, the cosmetic wasn't the problem. It was getting everything done. So there was a lot of, every ounce, every inch of the cast iron plumbing had to be replaced. Every piece of electric had to be either upgraded or double checked. It started with two fuse boxes. There's now 6. The HVAC had to basically be redone. The only thing that had done, the previous owner, the guy that owned it for 18 months, the only bullet I dodged was the fact that he had to put on a new roof. And that was unfortunate for him, but lucky for me. So that was the only thing that I didn't have to do. It needed insulation, it needed painting. The windows hadn't been opened in 100 years probably. So I could sit up here for an hour and go room by room everything that had to be done. But just imagine everything had to be done. And the only thing that we really gutted and started over with were the kitchen, which wasn't in that bad a shape, it just wasn't laid out right, and the bathrooms. Now the bathrooms were added in the 1920s, and they hadn't been touched since the 1920s. Wood floor bathrooms, if you can imagine, and the resulting rotted wood around the toilet seal and the sinks and behind the everything. So they had to be literally taken out and started all over, and we'll see them in a second. But just cosmetically, that's the only thing. And there's paint, and we redid the floors, and now it's curtain time. I didn't realize curtains could be so involved. I thought you just kind of went to the store and bought curtains, and I was informed otherwise. So the curtains are in the process of getting put up, and they look great, but it's like outside. I just finished doing the driveway. I don't know if you've noticed it or not. It used to be kind of a dirt road with a little bit of gravel on it. Now it's a dirt road with a lot of gravel on it. Although it makes it much easier to get up and down. It was like driving up a mountain beforehand. I'm surprised some of the trucks that had to get up and down there actually made it, but they did. The out parcels, the cottage, the caretaker's cottage was in pretty good shape. Didn't have to do a whole lot to that. And insulated the ceiling and added a washer and dryer in there and whatnot. And, I have somebody living in there now, my son-in-law. And the other one, the schoolhouse, and because I couldn't figure out what it was. And you go in there, and it didn't have a kitchen in it. They kind of did a makeshift kitchen of late, but we ripped that out because there wasn't much to rip out. And we used the kitchen that we ripped out of the main house to build the kitchen in the little house. So now there's two cottages, one with 2 bedrooms. In the schoolhouse now is a 1-bedroom cottage. The old barn is still old, still a barn. It's in kind of rough shape. I'm not quite sure what to do with that. There's room to, it's stuff stored in there and whatnot, but there's not one of the storms of late ripped some of the sheeting off the roof, but other than that, it's probably just going to be that. But it's a 1925 Sears Roebuck mail order barn, and it's great. It's still strong as can be. I added another barn next to it, basically to park the tractor and some other stuff coming down the line. It's just a metal frame building, trying to blend in as best as possible. Because I am going to turn it back into a working farm. We have chickens now. We have 80 chickens, and in 2 coops that get moved every day. And we're putting the water line in now for the automatic feeders for the cattle. But I might have to wait a little while on cattle. I don't know if you followed it, but cattle are expensive. They've really gone up. So I don't know if this is the best time to get in the cattle business, but at least I'll have the water there for them. Pigs, on the other hand, are probably going to come a little quicker because they're easier and you can get into that without a lot of fanfare. Bees, I have bees.
Horses.
Horses. We're going to get horses. I promised my wife horses, but they'll just, like maybe a couple to just be really, lawn ornaments more than anything. But it'd be neat to. My neighbor has some horses running around his front yard, and it looks really good. So she said, we need those. I said, okay. So, well, what's a horse? After the gravel on the road, what's another horse? So, but in the house, there's some very interesting things that if you're not looking for them, you don't see them. On the back of the house is a sleeping porch, an old-time sleeping porch, and it used to be the width of the entire house. And you can see it's been shortened, but if you look on the back of the house, they bricked in the walkways to the windows, because the windows had walkways, and then the windows are about here, and they just bricked it all up, and now it's just a regular window. But they didn't, the bricking is Flemish bond, and they just filled it in, Joe Schmo just filled it in as regular brick, so you can see the two things. But it's still a sleeping porch out there. And I toyed with the idea of going back to the original one, but nobody wants to sleep outside. I mean, it's screened in and everything, but summer it's too hot and winter it's too cold, and for a couple of days a year, I'm not going to spend that kind of money to do that. Also, it would kind of make the rest of the house dark, so don't want to do that. The front hall, when you walk in, now there's a rug on it, but I point this out to everybody. When you walk into the front hall, it's 42 feet long, and the wood strips don't have a break in them. So they made 42-foot planks of wood running. Just imagine, you have, usually it's 6, 8, 10, 20 feet long. There's a 42, and there's about 20 of them. So that was a big tree. I tried to do the math. If they did that in 1827, that tree had to be at least a couple hundred years old, I'm thinking. To be straight as a board and 42 feet long. I asked the tree guy, and that's what he said. So if you think about it, that tree was here. They discovered America. It's in the early 1600s, probably, maybe even older than that. So I just thought that was very interesting. Every day you find out something new about it. I found out something new just when I was looking at that. So it was very interesting. But let's take a walk through the house and let's show you what we did a little bit. And this said a couple of times. Okay, that's the front. I added those two lights. They're gas lights. They're on the front and the back doors, and they're just on 24/7, just as my beacon in the night when you're driving through there. That was one thing that I really wanted, and that's what we did. That's the front hall, and like I said, the walls, the thing is over it, but let's see, where was, there's but one plank of wood. Every one of these planks is one plank of wood all the way to the front door, which is about here. So we took the wallpaper off. I don't know if some people have seen that's the den that everybody says, oh, that's great. The den, I bet you guys live in there. We've probably spent about 15 minutes in that room. Upstairs hallway. Now they're the new bed. All the bathrooms are somewhat similar looking, but I just did nice quality, but somewhat generic with that. And then that's the downstairs one because I jokingly say that they're going to carry me out of the house in a box. I'm not moving. But that's on the first floor, and if I ever needed a first floor bedroom, that's why I put that bathroom through that door. That's why I put the shower in that one. There's you can see that's the old entrance to the sleeping porch that used to be. It's bricked up now, but that used to, you'd open the window and then flip that open and you could walk right out onto the porch. Now there's a little door out there that's just been kind of made. Bedroom. There's 14 fireplaces in it. A couple of them are bricked. The ones in the two in the base. There's four in the basement, I think. Two or three of them are bricked up. One of them looked like a cooking thing, although they did have I'm sure when they first built it, they cooked outside. They didn't want fire in there. Bathroom. That's the kitchen. We just gutted that and redesigned that one. We're both cooks, so we liked that. And it's not a big kitchen at all, so you had to make it really functional in short order. And that, the counter and the island, we had them design it just, and electric goes there, but that's probably where we spend about 90% of our time. I sit in the chair right there, and my wife cooks and we talk. So the rest of the house, we just rent out or something, because we really, besides that in the bedroom, we don't spend a lot of time in the places. There you can see, that's the garage. That was the schoolhouse that we turned into the 1-bedroom, and that is the 2-bedroom. And here you can see very readily that that's the new big wing that they built in the 1920s. Right now, that's a stairwell up, master bath, and that was a bedroom, and the same thing on the back. And we took one of the bedrooms, that's kind of like a morning room, and there's exercise equipment in there and stuff. But the other one, which I'll show you a picture of, oh, that's it. Where's the rest of it? Is that on the thing? Okay.
Yes.
One of the bedrooms we took and made it into a closet room. People seem to like that. But here's another. Yes, sir.
The windows on the wing, 2 seem to be up and 1 seems to be down. Is that just the way it looks?
Yeah, it's not perfectly symmetrical. Because the downstairs, the windows on the big wing, there's 3 windows that go into the butler's pantry.
Yeah.
And then upstairs is just the regular windows from the bedroom, and then the bathroom, and then the stairwell. So it's not a perfect symmetry, which I think is kind of neat, but it is definitely off a little bit.
A couple of other questions that I had. Did you run into lead paint or asbestos or anything with the renovation?
No, fortunately, no asbestos, because there wasn't an ounce of anything that would insulate anything in there. So it was just plain old pipe that wasn't covered up. And in the walls, you can't put insulation in the walls because it's brick and then plaster. So there's no gap in there to put anything. And as far as paint's concerned, most of it there's some wallpaper in some of the rooms, and the others was just paint that we repainted. So no, nothing like that. I have to say there wasn't a whole lot done to that house in the last 30 or 40 years, to be honest with you. So fortunately, we didn't run into anything like that.
So since it's on the National Register, do you have to get permission or permits about any changes, especially on the exterior?
Well, we didn't change the thing from a structural. Structurally you couldn't do it because it's the old 4x4, and it's brick, and unless you wanted, for example, the lights that I put on, we had to literally scrape out the brick on the inside to run the gas line down there. So there wasn't. There was no changing anything because A, I didn't want to, and B, it would have, it's under easement, the Virginia Outdoor Foundation. I don't know if that affects the inside of it, but I wasn't going to change anything anyway. So, no, I didn't run into any problems because I just wasn't going to do anything to even come close to messing it up. And we really tried to keep if you walk in, you're expecting, fancy ornate stuff. No, it was renovated back to where it probably was originally. It's really plain, and we're still not done yet. But it's not good. I wouldn't want that, and I wouldn't do it anyway. But it's really it's a farmhouse, and that's what I wanted to turn it back into. So.
Yeah, Mark was saying that around the Civil War, it was 2,000 acres on the property. Do you have an idea of when it got down to 50 acres? Was that the banker from?
Well, No, I don't, but I do know this. It's actually, I have 130 acres.
Oh.
Actually, I know it. The lot that the house is on is 50. And then I have an L-shaped piece that goes up the side of that, and then behind the house, which is, and backs up to a piece of land that abuts the trail, the bike trail behind there. And that's 80 acres. And the guy next to me, Mr. Kramer, bought it originally, and it was 300 acres, and he split it into, not thirds, but in 3 different parcels. He used to live in the big house a long, long time ago. But he split his off and has 65 acres next door, and just built a 1-level, very nice house for him and his wife. And the other side is Ken Stroud, the Board of Supervisors, has 125 acres that he has animals, and he built a log cabin on his. So originally, when Mr. Kramer bought it, it was about 300, but it was 2,000 and went all the way down to the river, which you can see from if you're standing up in the house. But I don't know how things get split off. They just get sold and given and willed and whatnot.
Do you have any plaques that show when it was 2 and went down to the river?
I do not. One of the previous owners gave me 4 big giant notebooks of stuff, and it's interesting. And I couldn't make really heads or tails. I gave it to him, and he seemed to do a much better job. But it doesn't have. It touched a lot on, what it was over the years in quote unquote modern times. I mean, it's been a girls' school, it's been a boarding house, it's been a Airbnb, for lack of a better term. It's been a family home and a weekend. It's probably been a dozen different things over the years, as most big houses have over the years. And I've had pictures where there's literally cows up by the front door and things like that. So maybe we'll get back there.
I've been doing some research on that area. Some of our family was on the Rappahannock coming up about where Hop Yard is. We've always told that the wall and the walls is that pretty much from where Hop Yard is now over to close to Lamb's Creek. That the original 2,000 acres, you all said, it went almost from the Potomac to the Rappahannock.
Yeah,
That was a long time ago.
and reading also, it looks like it may have gone even toward Falmouth. But it was definitely the owners, as you see, that he married Reverend Wishart's wife, so they own that plantation over Lamb's Creek.
Right.
And then own and of course, the
So
church.
Hop Yard was part of Rokeby.
Forever.
We went there, the Historical Society had dinner there when the Kramers owned it.
Oh,
They
okay.
were part of
I
the
don't think
Historical
Hop Yard was
Society.
part of Rokeby.
And we had a wonderful Christmas dinner up there one year when they were there. And I knew the next owners. Their name, she died of cancer.
Bolden.
Yes, I knew them.
Dort, yeah, Miss
The
Bolden.
Kramers were members
She's buried there, by the
of
way.
the Historical
Coach,
Society.
I don't think it ever went as far down as Hop Yard.
I'm sorry, what?
I do not think that the Wall or Wallace Rokeby property ever went down as far as Hop.
Well, then how did it go to the river?
Hop Yard stops right there.
Hop
So
Yard is-
our family were the Berries. We're down where Berry was.
Yeah, but Hop Yard, if it didn't go as far as Hop Yard, how did it go to the Rappahannock River?
Well, Hop Yard stops right there.
Hop Yard is what?
Hop Yard's entirely on the Rappahannock, but it doesn't come anywhere near as far as Lamb's Creek and all of that. I mean,
I think that she's thinking of the subdivision, Hop Yard.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Not the actual
I'm
Hop Yard.
talking about Hop Yard.
The area.
subdivision, as we know
right.
it. Yeah,
Across the street from.
across the street from
me.
this house.
Right. I was told that our family, the Berry family, owned that. In 1665, where the daughter married a Berry, and then we had all the land from almost where Cleve is, or was, up to where Hop Yard is now. And at that time, the Dogue Indians, the Berries were there. The Dogue people were still living at Berry.
Yeah,
you
they
know where
had
Berry Plain is, right?
campgrounds
You know where Berry
and
Plain is.
places over there at Berry Plain.
Right, but there were Dogue there were native people who were part of the Doe tribe living where Hop Yard and almost where the old Berry Plain house is.
Oh, sure.
And it went all the way up to, would be the bottom of the hill where I think the Wallaces would have owned down to the Rappahannock. And then, as you said, toward Lambs Creek, toward Stafford.
Or in Stafford County maybe, because back then it might have even been Stafford County, who knows?
But it ran, you say it ran north and south, it ran between the Rappahannock and, I don't think it ran that far west, I think it ran from the Rappahannock north. But most of it was in those days would have been Richmond County, that became King George.
Right, okay.
1720. And then north of the ridge, that was Stafford County.
Where would you find a plaque that goes back a few years? Where would you? Now, you're always finding great things, Mark.
You have to do the courthouse. Problem is, I don't know if it survived the Earl.
It would be interesting.
Probably have better
That
idea.
would be interesting, yeah.
Yeah, we can go research it, but and we need to research it for the video project. But with it being a portion in Stafford and then a portion in George, we're going to have to go to both.
Yeah.
Have you tried the Central Rappahannock Heritage Center to see if they had anything on
No, I hadn't tried
That's
that.
interesting.
Which they said somewhere, I'm sure.
I'll start looking for it.
That's
So what's
nuts.
the most interesting thing you've found so far?
Interesting. Well, sometimes you wake up and you feel like you're in a museum because it's very home-like. Dogs running around and one thing or another. I don't like something you're scared to live in. So it's definitely lived in, but you still kind of walk around and once in a while you're going like, yeah, this is, this
Feels like it's everybody else's.
you're kind of just taking care of it.
That's how it is in our house.
So that's interesting. But honest to God, you get up and look out of the window and that view, looking up the window, makes it all worthwhile. All the work and
We all go down
expense.
the road and do the same thing you did, looking up at that house. It looks.
Yeah. Well, anytime somebody wants to come by, just let me know. I'd be more than happy to.
What's interesting is when I first tried to get in touch with the owner, Ken Stroud had given me the owner's name. Couldn't get him to answer the phone. He wouldn't call me back. Ken said he was from Canada.
Funny story.
And then, so he came down, he replaced the roof. His goal was to
Retire there.
Retire there.
Yeah.
And so he applied for a visa and tried to, become a citizen of the United States, and the U.S. said no.
Well, that's the official reason.
Right.
That's the official reason.
But tell us the real reason.
Well, I never met the man, so I can't say. But the guy that my farm manager did work for him too, so I inherited Joey. He was wonderful, and he was telling me about him, and I think he was a little crotchety, might be the right word for it. But he came down. He not like just over the border of Canada. They lived up in Canada.
Yeah.
And he was a farmer, and he was retiring, and just figured they'd come down here. Well, one little piece of advice: if you're gonna buy a farm in Virginia from Canada, you really ought to tell your wife,
Oops.
because she came down here and experienced in August in Virginia, and that coupled with the distance to grandchildren, she just said no mas. So that's why it came on the market 18 months later.
18 months, and I remember when this happened, and it was unusual.
Yeah.
It would make you look and go, what's wrong?
Oh, that's the first thing I thought. I
That's
said
the first
something's,
thought. What's
something's up.
wrong? Yeah.
Either,
Yeah.
honestly, it's something's hanky or he died. One of the two.
Yeah, yeah.
And he didn't die. So.
Yeah, but that's interesting, yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's now I can't confirm that, but that's what
That's-
she came down and experienced a King George
And
August,
how old was
and
he?
she said Damas, huh?
How old was he?
80? something like that.
And
It was
that-
80?
And
Oh,
he
wow.
hadn't learned how to talk to women and.
Well,
there was a place.
there's a lot of empty beer cans in the house. So, I don't know, but I think he was a little crotchety. So maybe the State Department told him to pound sand, but that's
That'll do it.
yeah, that'll do it.
Denied.
But I've never spoken to him. He wrote me a nice note because he had to send me the front yard was leased out to a farmer, and I got the second year of it, and he just, good luck and blah, 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 blah. So, no, I got nothing against him. I wanted to thank him for the roof, but I thought that might rub a little salt in the wound. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your work and all. You mentioned a burial cemetery property. Can you talk any more about?
Well, the only one I know of is Mrs. Bolden. The previous owner's wife passed away while they were there, and she's in the backyard next to the shrubbery, and it's
She had cancer, yeah.
yeah. I
They had
didn't know her,
horses.
but
That's how I knew when she had horses.
but yeah, it's there, and it's not. It'd be crass. It's not in the way or anything. And I told him, he said, I'll call you if I'm coming. I said, just come. I don't care. He comes up occasionally.
I think I read that some of the Wallaces and some of the Williams are also somewhere on the property.
I haven't dug around the woods, so I can't tell. There's an old shack that's all beaten up. I don't know if it's a slave quarters or just an old house, but
So where are all the other previous owners buried?
I don't know, but there's no cemetery. I'm not saying they're not on the property, but there's no, at least out in the open, I haven't seen anything. And the other part's been woods for 100 years, forever. So I can't imagine that they're buried back in the woods, but
So in your deed, there was nothing that mentioned?
just Miss Bolden, yeah.
That's
So.
interesting. They might have been at one of the Lambs Creek Church or.
Well, you gotta figure if it was
I don't
thousands of
know.
acres, they might have found another place that's a little more conducive. It's kind of hilly there, unless, they're not gonna bury in the middle of the field, because you would take up room for growing crops. So, and they don't wanna put you in the woods, and then the other's kind of hilly, so maybe there's something down, maybe
That's
over.
what they did in Blu-ray. They had, the previous family was a big circle right in the middle of a huge hayfield, and that's where they were
Well,
buried.
I mean, what's the one down in Westmoreland? It's the burnt
A little
field,
strange.
burnt farm field or whatever, has the
Yeah.
thing in the middle of it. So, but no, nothing official.
So we went to a talk, my wife and I, on the George Washington's birthplace archaeology.
Mm.
The one thing they mentioned there is they did LiDAR assessments of the property, and they were able to identify some earth-based features that they didn't know were there before, so that's a possibility if you ever get interested to do a.
Anybody that wants to do anything out there is fine with me. There's nothing to, I'm obviously the fields have been plowed up 100 times over, so that's not gonna result in anything, but if anybody wants to come and poke around, I got no problem.
Just for your information, Tom Kramer had allowed myself back in the late 80s, early 90s, I think it was, went in there with a metal detector right up around the house.
Mm.
Most of every artifact that we found was late Victorian.
Well, it makes sense, because that's when all the workmen were walking around.
But as far as the evidence of Burnside, we never came across anything that would indicate that. But in later years, having talked to other relic hunters, everything is over towards Ken Stroud, so there must have been an outbuilding that he was headquartered in for those 2 days. It was doubtful. It wasn't that early in the war. It wasn't common protocol for them to kick the residents of a house out and use it as their headquarters.
And it was such a 2 days, literally 2 days, and I'm thinking, some stuff might have been dropped on the ground, but not a.
But there was another Wallace family over where Ian Norfolk's home is now. I think they were 2 brothers. One Wallace went to their home, and another one farther off of the Grange. Right
Mm.
across the railroad tracks, there's a hill back up in there, and it was an old log of some sort.
Green light. Green light.
There's that simple little picket poles right there across from the stoplight. It could be in this front field or Stroud's front field.
The what?
So right where the stoplight is,
Yeah.
top yard, on your side of the road, and I don't know if it's on your property or Stroud's property, somewhere in that field there, it could be on William Reed's property as well. There should be a picket right there,
Hmm.
and there would have been a small camp or something to man that, unless they were manning it for the one that was on the guest property.
Did the Rokeby tie into White Oak?
I don't know.
The family owned both of those,
Well, that would make sense.
That was interesting.
Yeah. which I thought what I was told that Lawrence Tolliver's family actually owned White Oak at one
Well,
time.
maybe they were sisters and brothers
Yeah,
and cousins
exactly.
and uncles and had, you know.
We had to
a lot
dig
of-
more into that.
Yeah, because it wasn't, people didn't travel, and my wife didn't come from California, there and there and there, none type of. Interesting, the ties.
Well, we ought to have a meeting up there one time.
Our next meeting is August. So third Thursday in August. We have plenty of time to work it out with you.
Yeah.
We don't meet in
Careful
June and
with
July.
yours.
But with the
It's that house does much better when there's a lot of people milling about. It gets, two people, like I said, we just sit in the kitchen because it's, huh?
Remember September's gonna be.
Well, there's, remember,
Yeah,
we're gonna
absolutely.
have our wedding there October 24th, so that's a lot of people.
So, there was one place that my wife and I stayed in France where, it was an old estate and it was a really long, actually it was more or less, rectangular, but in the wintertime, they only lived in a small area and they shut the whole rest of it off. Have you done anything like that where there's just certain sections that you don't?
I'm pretty sure the Boldens did that, because with the air conditioning that they had in there, there's no way in the world they could cool or heat that place, all of it at one time, I don't think. So I know they must have done it. And almost by default, I've done it a little bit just because the windows leak like sieves, and the storm windows aren't here yet. They have to be specially made and disappear into the wall, kind of deal.
But you are putting storm windows in.
Yeah. You can't put them on the big front windows, but the side ones and some of the others, they're getting it just to help out, because if I told you what my electric bill was, you guys.
Did you use Indo for that?
No, some guy in Pennsylvania that makes it for historic homes.
Okay.
They had to come out and measure each window and.
Yeah,
So.
we did the same thing with ours, but they sent the kit and we did it ourselves. But I'll tell you this, the difference is night and day. It was the first time the house ever felt still when we installed them, and it dropped the bill from $700 to $800 a month to $200 to $300 a month.
Well,
Incredible difference.
I would.
They're indoor storm windows.
Sorry.
They have a gasket around them. You have to measure.
Oh, I know what you're
the
talking
laser
about.
measure.
I had those growing up in
Yeah.
the old house downtown.
But it's been a miracle for us.
Well, these go on the outside and create
Okay.
a buffer. And,
Okay.
but yeah, it was crazy. So almost by definition, we never used the blue room, so we just shut it off. And that side of the house doesn't get used very often, just because you don't have enough time in the day to go sit in every room. And the upstairs bedrooms, when my kids come, that's all they come, but they don't come but a couple times a year. So it's good to have guests and visitors and all, because that's what that house needs. It's not a. It's not a.
Yeah, it's like, I think I remember Linda telling us when we were up there, when you go in the front door, the rooms over to the right, it's like she was saying, we hardly ever use them.
Yeah. No, I said
Are
that, like I
mostly
said,
over here
that,
where the dining and the living and the kid, yeah.
the dining, yeah.
Yeah, this part
The
we-
front room, right now, it's a junk room because we need, when we moved in, I had a house full of furniture and my soon-to-be wife had a house full of furniture. My mom and dad, who lived downtown, had both, they died very close together. So I had their entire house of furniture, and the house came furnished. So I got, anybody wants some furniture? We've had to go through and deal with four households of
Is that
furniture.
what you use that barn for?
Yeah, there's a little bit out there, but most of it, anybody.
Yeah.
It's we send home, tables
Yeah.
as party favors. Just you can't come unless you take a chair with you.
Oh, bless you, yeah.
So, but I like it. That's why I said we can do it. I'd love to have people out there.
That would be
This is
such
a
beautiful
question
place
for
to
Mark.
live.
So what's in those notebooks that he gave you?
Oh, it gives us all the information on the previous owners.
There's a biography, like a bibliography that starts in Gustav and then works its way up. So nothing before Gustav. That's
It's got
the house.
walls. It talks about the walls in it, but there's also
Cool
there's
pictures.
a lawsuit.
Oh yeah.
There's a lawsuit. There was a lawsuit with a farm in New York called Rokeby.
Did you read?
Yeah,
Paul Mellon, the Mellon Bank person, has a farm in Western Virginia called Rokeby Farms. And it came after, obviously, this Rokeby farm because this was 1827 and his was somewhat recent. And one of his attorneys wrote a very curt letter to the owner. And she did not take that very well. So she wrote a letter back to actually Paul Mellon, the Mellon family or whoever was the owner. And he didn't have any idea. The lawyer was just trying to scare and giving up the name. Because if you go to when I went to put it in, get a business license from the state of Virginia, there was another one with a lawyer in Alexandria. So I had to remake it. His was Rokeby Farm. So I did Rokeby Farms. And it flew. I haven't gotten any letters from the Mellons, but she wrote a very nice letter to him, and he must have felt badly because he personally wrote back to her and just said, "I'm sorry that they did this, and you're fine." And little Rokeby compared to this gigantic horse operation, that no one was ever going to confuse the two. I guarantee you.
Well, and there was actually three. There was one in New York, and then the two down here. They kept naming the one in New York, and the lady that owned this Rokeby at that time said, "I don't know about y'all, but I know when the Rokeby was formed here in 1827, and it proved that y'all was before that."
So was it not called Rokeby before 1827? Rokeby is the house, not the property.
No, I believe it was called Rokeby before that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, Rokeby, 1827 is a pretty
Right,
good word
right.
for this property.
Because they talk about in the 1600s the Earth House.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where the Haitians and all of that formed. But I know that by reading the information here that it was 1827 that this building was built. And then, of course, after that, then they started adding the outbuildings on it. But I would really love to find something that was before then to see exactly.
The mention of Pop Castle is not associated with it at all.
What is it?
What is Pop Castle? I saw that on the map.
It's between Rokeby
I know
and Lamb
I've seen it, but is that a neighbor? I mean, what is?
It was a neighboring,
There was a house.
Huh?
We have a file on it. In the Hop Yard subdivision now, there was a terrace that went down to the river, and that house stood above that terrace.
Oh, okay.
And it was an ancient house, and it used that name Pop Castle for years.
Okay, I was just wondering where it came from.
Associated with that.
I saw it on when you pull up the map online. The area is called Pop Castle, and we're like, that's kind of strange. Just wondering where it came from.
There was a house there.
named bad.
We've got a photograph of it in the museum from, I'm trying to think, 40s, before it completely, before it completely fell in. That is taken from Route 3. And I mean, you can see it's already dilapidated. Everything. It's,
That's the one to file?
yeah, I think it's in the file. I don't think it's in the book.
Because I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, that was one that we got from Jack Reed, that his mother had in her files, that he brought to us when she passed away.
Hmm.
So I know it's in the file somewhere, because I remember when, because Elizabeth was stoked about it when we got it. Because she was like, oh, I didn't even know there was any evidence of it ever existing, and there was a photograph.
I need to make copies of that. Scan it.
But I mean, it's from a distance. I mean, you see it. If we were saying that white screen right now was the picture, and you see how that house is up in the foreground, this house would have been back on that little piece of land on the other side of the river. Like that's how small it is in the photograph. I mean, it's you've got to take a magnifying glass just to really kind of make out the dimensions of it.
It's reading a lot of the paperwork. I mean, of course, they talk about Burnside being there and all this other information, and it jumps back and forth. I mean, it literally, when he says a binder, a 3-ring binder,
4 of them.
they're that thick. And so pulling all that paperwork out and scanning it and digitizing it, I took one of the 3-ring binders, and that was enough. It was a lot of information. If I wanted to learn about Rokeby, I did.